Hey everyone, welcome to Dinner Church. Joined again by Melinda and Dean, and glad to have you with us. We're continuing in our culture statement series looking at the values of what defines us as the Reunion Network. This episode is called House Party.
Yes, woo, love that.
And we're talking about people, a culture of table, and we define it as this. We open our lives and hearts to one another by choosing relationship and creating space. So when I was like grade 7 or 8, I can't remember which grade, I was living in Toronto and I made the basketball teams.
You did?
Shocker.
So I didn't want to look like I was so shocked.
I know. I was as surprised as you are right now. But I met this guy named Dave, and we were playing a Friday night, Saturday tournament one weekend. Mm-hmm. And so Friday after school, before we went to the tournament, I said, why don't you come back to our house for dinner, and then we'll go to the tournament, we'll take the bus to the tournament together. And so in my upbringing, like sitting at the table and having dinner was always what we did. Like that was my parents' one thing, and it was always 5 p.m. Now I'm like, who eats at 5 p.m.? Are you crazy?
I do sometimes.
Okay. So they were 5 p.m. So I walk home from school with Dave, and we come in and we always sit at the table together at 5 p.m. and we eat this, and it was just felt like a normal thing. Everyone's talking about their day eating. Mm-hmm. And then as we're leaving and we're getting on the TTC to go to the high school that was hosting this tournament, he says to me, do you always sit and eat together at the table? And I said, yeah, because I had never thought people don't do that. Mm-hmm. And he said, that was really awesome. Like, we don't really do that. Mm. And it cued for me something that I just took for granted about, and something that's so special about the chance to share space and time around a table and a meal together, because a lot of people don't get that. And that's core to who we are as a network, right? So whether you're watching this eating dinner right now, or you've just eaten and now you're doing this, whatever it is, the meal is so central because it makes us all equal and human, and it invites us together to be in life and rhythm. And it's so special, and we can take it for granted. So in this week's scripture passage that you've probably read, we read about this great banquet and this host who throws open the doors and in the beginning has a tough time getting people to come for dinner to the party. So let's talk about it. Like, what do you think? Mel, maybe we'll start with you. Like, what, as you're reading what jumps out?
This whole story resonates with me. I love throwing parties. And when I look at this party, this like unbelievable party, so I'm thinking Met Gala, Anna Wintour, Jay-Z and Beyonce, plus Elton John, plus John Legend.
We always think of Met Galas too.
Plus John Legend, Grammy party.
Right.
That you have been invited a year in advance. You don't miss it.
Right.
You don't miss it. This is big. And clearly from the passage, the party planner has a lot of space. It's a huge party, right?
Yes.
And so for me, especially when I even throw parties on at that scale, for people to start saying no to me is really an issue. Yeah. Like, and I'm saying, and when I say issue, I was trying to tell Dean before, like, it's not being slighted, maybe it's disrespected, but I've given you an invitation way ahead of time, and then you come back to me and say, I got a field, can't do it, I've got animals, can't do it, I'm even getting married. It's like, P.S. This invitation was way before you even were thinking about getting married. You didn't even meet the guy.
Yeah, it should trump all those things.
All of it. And then to say, sorry, can't do it.
Right.
I actually get really riled up to say, I thought of you, I invited you, you were most likely a friend, a good colleague, a sponsor, a partner, whatever.
Yeah, there's a reason why you were invited. Yes.
I invited you to this huge banquet, and then you say no. And everything about that makes me upset.
Yeah.
And then that's why it makes sense to me that then it's like, okay, you're not going to come, then I'm going to get the people who want to come.
Screw you.
Exactly. I'm glad you said it, because that's how I have deeper feelings about it. I was angry when I read this, because I get it. And you're putting it on, you're thinking about them. There were probably like gift bags, maybe even individually thought for you. There's a lot of things that I thought about for you, and you say no.
Man, when are you throwing your next party? I can't wait for the gift
clearly,
bags.
There's gift bags, there's thoughtfulness. I've even probably thought of like gluten-free, vegan food for you, because I know you're coming. There's a lot of thought in which I have created an experience for you. And then you say no. And here's the thing, legit reasons, but not legit for me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, I told you ahead of time this was important, and then it wasn't important to you. That's my first initial thing. What the heck?
Yeah.
And I'm setting you up with all of my anger and angst. Go for it, Dean.
It's good. And I think I even like the, legit reasons, like I would even question it and say, sure, like we can look at it and be like, those are all important things. But in the context of like being invited and having the anticipation of this banquet and this invitation, and then kind of like even the text says like making the excuse.
Yeah.
So even we're set up to see like it's an excuse. It's not like, oh, something really important came up and you're like, wow, like, and you can kind of have empathy for the person who's like, you know, my dad is like, it's his last day or something. You can kind of feel like, oh, that's like a legit reason to bow out.
COVID-like symptoms.
Yeah, right?
That's the one now.
But that's the thing.
That's your get out of everything. COVID-like symptoms.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was really looking forward to it, but it's a little. Is it warm in here? Yeah, scratchy slight tickle. Yeah, I know. How
is it
long?
too soon for these?
I don't know. I feel like if we don't joke about it now.
Exactly.
But it is in a way like it is disrespectful, and it is taking this this invitation and kind of being like, well, something that is not as good, I'm gonna like give my time and energy to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think also the thing that really stood out to me is like this parable teaches us the value of like celebration and not to let, you know, work, I have to go out to the field or these other things like get in the way of the importance of marking a time and space to like be together in kind of a celebratory way, eating and drinking and sharing life around the table. Like that is what's elevated as central here. Those other things can wait.
Yeah.
Right? And
Even marriage.
yeah.
Change your date.
Right, yeah, if you know ahead of time.
If you know ahead of time.
Yeah, because I did a little like background on this, and so those three excuses are given as legitimate Old Testament reasons for avoiding responsibility. Not seen as an excuse, but seen as a legitimate, culturally honored way of stepping out of a responsibility. And it's specifically tied into war. You can excuse yourself from war and, you know, the duty to go and protect your country by these. But it's interesting in this story, as Jesus is talking about, he doesn't label them as legitimate. He's talking about them as excuses.
And excuses. And he actually says it, excuse.
Yeah.
It's an excuse, 1, 2, 3. And it's interesting because it's an excuse about means and money and even relationship, right? Like, I mean, and it sounds like we said, it sounds like legitimate excuses. We all have them.
Yeah.
But I think on the other end, for somebody who loves to throw a party, it really is, I honestly, I feel it. I feel so disrespected and so hurt by the excuses. Because here I have put on a banquet party for you to sit around the table, put all of my actually own monies and time into it as well, to provide a space and place for you to celebrate, to be together, and you're saying no.
Yeah.
It's harsh.
Yeah, and this is a picture of like the kingdom of God, right? This is like the banquet that Jesus is preparing. And it's interesting to me that like it's all the work has been done. So if you don't want to come, I'm going to throw it out to people you would never expect to be invited to the Met Gala.
Exactly.
Yeah. All of a sudden, it's not Jay-Z and Beyonce or whoever.
Yeah.
It's like us three.
It's us.
We're going. I might even put on some more colorful attire, you know, expand the wardrobe.
And I do love that. I love, so then they're not going to come, so we're going to go to the poor and the crippled, and we're going to keep going. And then I think the one thing that really strikes me is that after all of that, there's more room. So you can imagine how big this banquet is, just the scope of it. And then it says, the servant comes back and says, hey, we have more room. And they're like, you know what? Then go and compel more people to come.
Right.
And I think that one is where I'm kind of like, you have to compel more people to come to the party.
Right.
And so for me, I think that means that there are people that might feel they're even unworthy to come to the banquet. Right? So yeah, let's get the poor, the crippled, the people who are like, oh my gosh, I'm going to the Met Gala. Here's my time.
I love that behind the hedges.
Yeah.
Like who are the people behind the hedges?
Right? So there's more people and you have to compel them. And I think at that point, that really speaks something very deeply to me, where it's like the people who are like, I'm not worthy. I can't come. I don't have the right dress. I don't talk that same way. I'm not in the same socioeconomic space as you.
Right.
I'm going to compel you, and we're going to invite you. We're going to bring you in.
Right.
Yeah.
There's something deeply beautiful about that for me.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that it's interesting too, like just kind of theologically, to say these are coming back to the excuses, like they're legitimate excuses on one hand.
Right.
But then in this context, those excuses like don't hold up. And I think that Jesus is exposing, again, as he does, like, don't pay lip service to the thing, like actually live it. Because by the letter of the law, like sure, maybe you're excused from this event based on I just bought a field and I have to go see it, or I just got some oxen and I have to go try them out, or hey, I was just recently married so can't make it. And again, in a certain context, those would have been permissible.
Yeah.
But in this context, it's a violation of relationship.
Right.
And again, I just think that here Jesus is using the imagery of table and celebration and breaking bread together to elevate like the importance of relationship and valuing the other person in community over and above what is, allowed by law. Well, yeah, you did just buy those, so you do need to go check on it, or you do need to go do this, or, the Old Testament, like if you just get married, you have no obligations for a year.
Right.
But Jesus is saying, no, you have obligations to the community and to the relationship, and so we need to keep at those things.
Yeah.
It's good. That's really, really good.
So what are the things that you kind of wonder about, curious about?
Well, I think the thing that I was just saying about having to compel more people to come. It says something about how people feel about themselves, but also that there are a number of people who feel unworthy to be a part of the table, to be a part of a community, to be a part of the space.
Right.
I think that part, there's one part where after it's we invited the poor and the crippled, they came, but now we're going to go out and get more people, and we have to compel them to come, which means that compelling means that you actually have to, it's not manipulate, but actually have to say, come, let me tell you why. It's almost like trying to ensure it's going to be okay, that it, compelling means we have to tell them why it's good, why they can be there. And so I get that. There are people within, my own world and space where they don't feel they belong. They don't feel that they have a space at the table. I mean, think about, as a woman, for me, as a brown woman, there was many times in my life where I didn't feel like I belonged at the table, that I wasn't a part of the conversation, that I didn't have anything to say. And to then be invited to the Met Gala after you've not been invited to even a local neighborhood party is huge.
Yeah.
Because it says that you see me, I'm worthy, you want to be with me, you want to hear me, you want to listen to me, you want to break bread, you want to celebrate. That says something about you, but it also says something about me being worthy and of value.
Yeah.
And I think that was really so key in this passage that really got me, my heart, after I was so angry about being disrespected. It's and the redemption of it all is that everybody can be welcomed into, at the table for relationship, for a party.
Yeah, that's so good. I love the power of these stories where they can trigger in us these emotions. And from such a broad range in a short section of scripture, we can have that human experience of viscerally being how could they do that, to then having the flip side being but wait, that's if I put myself in this position, I can really empathize and feel it's finally I'm being seen and valued, and it's not because I have some sort of inherent value over someone else, but just simply for who I am, and that I can show up and be welcomed in. And again, coming back to the culture statement, what we're trying to do is create tables and spaces where there is no hierarchy of okay, well, first we'll invite these people, and then if there's room, but saying there is always room. And in fact, recognizing that our banquet is better and the conversation and experience is richer, having that diversity of people.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I wonder, I've put myself in it, why did those people not consider, the ones who say no, why did they not consider the invitation worthy of showing up for?
Yeah.
Well,
what was it to them that was in a priority? It's not worth it.
Yeah.
But to other people, that invitation, like you were saying, Mel, is like I can really come? You're really going this far to invite me into something that normally, and that to me is compelling in terms of, finding my own sense of place and welcome. And also, so who are we inviting? Who are we creating space for? Are we targeting a certain kind of person or a certain scenario? Or are we saying, no, this table, this banquet, our homes, our dinner churches, whoever we cross paths with should consider themselves invited.
But do you notice the point though, Matt, is that they went out.
Yes.
This wasn't all right, everybody, just come on in. It was an actual action of like, we went out to find and bring, we went out to compel. There's definitely a sense of responsibility for me as part of this community to say, I need to go out. I need to actually be in spaces and community to see the people and then invite them to the table.
Yeah.
It's something very natural to be with like-minded people and in spaces, but when they're different than yourself or different experiences, you need to go out and invite. And sometimes it is compelling. There are times where I've had to invite people and like, Mel, I feel uncomfortable. These aren't my girls.
Right.
It's not my scene. And I'm like, no. Do you want to be in community? Do you want to meet some new women? Do you want to be encouraged? Do you want to meet new friends? Yes. Okay, then come. And I'm with you. It's safe because I'm here. And I think that's the key too, is that there's connection, there's safety, and we learn together when it's a diverse group of people around the table.
And when the church is healthy and functioning properly, we're going to be uncomfortable by some of the people who show up at the table.
Yeah.
Yes.
Unless we want everyone to be just like us, then that's actually not what the banquet is all about.
No.
Right.
So there's going to be some folks that were like, oh man, it's tough. Just like you're going to be tough for someone
yes,
else.
exactly.
They're looking at me and being like,
oh, he's
man,
here.
that Vincent guy comes, honestly.
Who invited the vegan?
But man, we so quickly think that we're like the ones who are like dealing with it. But like, no. We bring some struggle to other people too.
Yeah. I really like to. I wonder if in telling this story, Jesus is setting up like kind of a theological picture here too. When I think about it, like a certain man. I wonder, I was like, is this like not that God is a man, but in this story, is this the God figure?
Right.
A certain man has hosted and created this beautiful banquet. Like the table is set, creation is here, the world is ours. We are invited to take delight in it and share it with one another. So this table, this banquet, whether we want to go like, micro and say the table that we sit around, or macro and say this community, this global community that we have. So God has set the table for us, and there's this invitation. And I wonder if in there's kind of like, there were some people who made excuses. They didn't want to show up. They didn't want to be part of that. And they used these kind of like law, religious maybe sounding excuses to opt out.
Right.
And then the servant was sent to go gather and find, to go do the compelling, you got to come to this. And I wonder if Jesus placed himself in the story like as that person, like going out into the
I thought about that.
behind the
I
hedges.
actually thought about that too. Is that he the one coming to say, I'm going to bring the poor and the crippled. I'm going to see those, the least of, and bring them.
Those are my people.
Those are my people.
And then, we think back to like last episode, if you watched it, that Great Commissioning is like, after that, then the banquet is set and we know we want to keep celebrating around this table. And now we've been the invited ones. And now that we've had some space and ownership and, recognize that this is our table to sit at, we then can like go out like Jesus and invite people and pull them in. And we just keep adding another leaf to the table and it grows and expands.
Can I just say this one thing, because it's the one line that bugs me, the last line.
Yeah, let's dig in.
Just really, because I want to ask you, because it's where then the master says, what does it say here? He says, this is harsh.
I tell you, not one of those men who are invited will get a taste of my banquet.
Oh!
Yeah.
Now, the base side of me, I would totally say that.
Yeah.
Right? Like the people who didn't come to my party, I'm throwing a Met Gala, you don't go, I would say the same thing.
Yeah.
Then you're cut off, you're done.
Yeah.
You'll never, but in that part, within the context of what you're saying of Jesus, then you're like, oh, what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I would say like, my initial thought when you say that is that it does ripple through other teachings of Jesus where we understand our invitation and place at the table is only made possible through Jesus.
Right.
So if you reject the invitation that he provides for us, then there's a consequence to that.
Right.
But the invitation and the table is set for everybody.
Right.
Yeah. I also think that we use, or the church has used passages like this to kind of leverage as some eternal consequence.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
totally.
I think that we can jump there and be like, oh, if it's like the heavenly banquet and they'll never get a taste of it, like I guess, boom, they're out.
Yeah, you're out for good, but
at the same time, it's like, it's also just kind of obvious. Like if you don't come, if you don't show up, you're not going to get a taste of the banquet.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay, no brie for you.
So it's kind of like, yeah, exactly, right?
Right.
You're missing out because you've chosen not to.
Yeah, and I think the chosen, this is the thing I was thinking, it's all about the choice.
Yeah.
Like, You make the excuses. You chose to make the excuses. You chose not to be part of the Met Gala, the big Grammy party.
Right.
But you, as a poor marginalized, chose to then, once the servant invited you, to say yes.
Right.
And then those who were compelled said yes. There's so much about choice and choosing. Do you want to be a part of the table and banquet?
In some ways, you know, not to like mix stories, but it right away highlights to me the story of the parable sons, where at the end of the story, the older son is left outside the party.
Yeah.
Right.
And he wasn't cast out. He kind of chose to be on the outside and pout. And we're not sure, like maybe he made his way back in. Maybe eventually he was like, no, I got to come back in. And here it ends in a way that says they'll never get a taste of my banquet. But it doesn't end so finally saying, but they can't come to the next one, or they can't change their mind, you know, metanoia, like turn around and make their way back. Because I think the invitation is always open. Yeah. But if we choose not to show up to the table, we're not going to eat at the table.
Okay. Amazing.
So much,
Good
so
conversation.
Much.
So much. Let's just pause and leave it there.
Right on.
So over to you at your dinner churches. Continue this conversation. Obviously, we view our role as a primer to get you going and to set you up for even more exploration and learning. So dig in, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks, Dean and Melinda. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon. Peace.